Guys, look. If I move the Venom face, kind of looks like I have wings. It's the opposite of Venom. Okay. What's shakin' bacons? Sony? You did that, man. You actually made a good comic film. This movie was the shock of the year for me, and before I dive into it, I just want to take a quick note and let you guys know that I've been putting out some sweet content on Patreon this October. I'm participating in Fictober, where I'm writing a little bit every day according to prompts. I've got a science fiction story going, and I've got a more normal story going, so that is open to every patron, even if it's just $1. If you are interested in reading or interacting with us over on Patreon, I have patrons joining in. You should come check it out. Link is in the description box below. If you haven't yet, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Now let's talk about the shockaroni that's Venom. I'm not someone who can't admit when I'm wrong, and I'm going to fully admit to you guys, I thought for sure, based on the trailer, that this was going to be a terrible movie. And in my defense, Sony is known for not making great movies. Venom 2018 was directed by Ruben Fleischer. I probably just said that wrong, but I'm gonna stick with it because Fleischer sounds scary, sort of like Venom. It was written by Scott Rosenberg, Jeff Pinker, and Kelly Marcel, and in this case, I think that the team did a great job. So the beginning of this review is going to be non-spoilers. Of course, I will discuss spoilers at the end. I will give you fair warning when they're about to happen, so if you don't want to get spoiled, you can scooch. This is surprisingly a movie where I thought it would be terrible. I walked into it and I really liked it. And I'm shocked. I've been hearing a lot of 50-50 on this film, and this is another movie much like The Last Jedi where I very much so disagree with the base critic scores. The critic scores for this are coming in terribly. However, it looks like the majority of Google users thumbs up the film so far, and I have to agree with the fact that I think it was worth watching, and I really enjoyed it. So the premise of the story, of course, Eddie Brock, as you all know, is a reporter. This movie is located in San Francisco, although there is a nod within the film to his New York roots as sort of an acknowledgement of the previous Spider-Man films. Sony's new Marvel Universe, introduced in this movie, is making a nod back to that film. The basic plot line, of course, is while interviewing Carlton Drake, who is sort of the evil version of Elon Musk in this world, he starts drilling Drake on his... Drilling Drake, that's some great alliteration. He starts drilling Drake on the deaths associated with his testing, some immoral practices. He and his fiance are broken up when they're both fired for questioning Drake and what he's doing with his company. One of the doctors working for Drake starts getting a little skeezed out by all the human experimentation and deaths that are going on, so she brings in Eddie to try and investigate, try to expose Carlton Drake, and ironically, Eddie gets exposed himself to the symbiote. When Carlton Drake is also subsumed by a symbiote, Eddie and Venom have to work together to defeat him, and that's basically the summary of the film. Now, my general feelings about the movie, as I've already said, is I am very pleasantly surprised. I went into it expecting to be unhappy. Although I was trying to be optimistic, I was like, maybe it'll be good, and it was. I'm sure there are people that are going to disagree with me, and I feel like it was great based on me just taking in the film, not knowing like the full width and breadth of the history of Venom. Although it did have some flaws, I think overall this was a great movie, and I would recommend going to see this in theaters. In fact, I kind of wish that I had taken the time to go see it in 3D, because there is a scene at the end where there's the climax, the penultimate fight scene, if you will, that would have been amazing in 3D, and I do wish I had gone to the 3D showing in order to experience that. So the story was really well put together. The Sony trailer definitely threw me off the scent. Like I said, I'm so used to Sony kind of screwing up movies and just revealing everything in the trailer, that to find that they had not given away the ending or any of the twists in the film in the trailer, and they actually had some misdirection in there, was highly satisfying. So Sony, I see you. Parts that the story could have been very predictable, or there would have been major holes in the plot, were addressed in a organic, natural way that flowed well. For the most part, the pacing was great. It was kind of laggy in the middle, I felt. The beginning launches you straight into the film. The middle kind of dips. The ending is also a little too fast for my taste. And something else I appreciated is that even though Sony is now incorporating and beginning to tie in the Marvel Universe starting with this film, they didn't try to be Marvel movie funny. And it was wonderful. Because so many movies now, and you guys have heard me complain about this, if you watch movie reviews, you've probably heard other people say this, so many movies now just try and make things quippy and one-liner and Marvel jokes. And it's just like, come on, that is the Marvel Universe. Not every movie needs to be a giggle fest. It just doesn't need to be. But the great thing about this film is that while there were parts of it that were truly funny, they weren't trying to be Marvel. And they did emphasize the fact that this is not a hero movie, and they kept it dark where it needed to be dark, and they threw in a little bit of humor here and there so that it wasn't overwhelming and it was enjoyable to watch. So I felt like there was a very good balance there. There were some very creative exposition techniques that I appreciated as well. In the beginning, you get a film montage to introduce the fact that Eddie Brock is a reporter and he specializes in exposing and talking about stories that no one else really wants to talk about. And I feel like that's a very great way of laying out who he is for moviegoers that are not familiar with the character and may not know anything about Eddie Brock. There's another bit of exposition that I think was handled very well, and it comes from Dr. Skirth as she's explaining to Eddie as they go and infiltrate the laboratories, that she's outlining the background of really who Carlton Drake is, but they don't shove it in your face, and it's tied in such a way that it lets you connect the dots that were sort of laid out for you previously in the film. And I really enjoy when writers do that because it's not lazy. I hate it when there's lazy writing. I do feel like there wasn't enough of a backstory about the symbiotes and where they're from. But with that being said, I understand that it could be because most of the focus of the film was not about the backstory of Eddie. It was not about the backstory of Venom. It was the story of how they found one another and then how they grew into the union that they had. Even though you don't get that backstory, you get enough of one and it makes sense to engage you into the present story of the characters becoming one with each other, which almost makes it sound like a romance, which is funny. The acting overall was quite good. I was really surprised by Riz Ahmed's performance. I completely missed the fact that he was in Rogue One. Completely missed the fact. I didn't even recognize him. He did a great job. You quickly realize that Carlton Drake, he's very much so a sociopath. And I feel funny saying that just because I know it's like really big on YouTube right now with Shane Dawson's thing, but he's definitely a sociopath, and Riz does a great job of flipping the masks of this man off and on, showing the fact that he's just putting on a show to meet his own gains. He played a very convincing sociopath. There was no complaints from me about his performance. The supporting actors were also very, very good, but the one issue I had is also against what I'm hearing from other people, and that is that I thought Tom Hardy was weird in this. Not at all times. Once he is possessed by Venom, his behavior makes more sense. The problem is his acting in this film is very drunk-like and twitchy, which would make sense after he was possessed. The problem is he acts drunk and twitchy, and he kind of looks drunk and twitchy even before he encounters Venom, when he's supposed to be more normal. And I felt like he played it oddly. It was just kind of weird. With that being said, I have to chalk this up to CG, because Tom Hardy is a great actor and he's done an amazing job in other films. We all know he's a good actor. And perhaps it was just the sheer amount of CG, the fact that he had to kind of act against himself in this. I can see how that would be strange for someone. But the other part of me has also heard the fact that he's kind of downplaying the movie, like he wasn't happy with this film. And so that makes me wonder if maybe he just wasn't invested in enough to give it his best effort. I don't know. What do you guys think? Have you heard anything about this? Because when I heard that, I kind of thought, I wonder if that's why his acting was not as good as it has been. But I will say, I do enjoy Tom Hardy as an actor. I wish that he had really stepped it up in this film. But, I mean, compared to Topher Grace, like, Tom Hardy is way better. Can you guys imagine if Topher Grace had been Venom? Think about it. There was also not a lot of chemistry between Tom and Michelle Williams, which is unfortunate, especially with that kind of cringy scene that they have that I will not touch on because that's sort of a spoiler. So that's kind of disappointing. They're both great actors though, so they acted through it, but you could tell that the chemistry just really wasn't there, and that's what made this particular scene kind of cringy. Overall though, the film was great to watch. The story really draws you in. I had no desire to leave the theater. I had no desire to look away or reach for my phone. The CG is a little wonky in places, but it can be overlooked. Like, for the most part, this movie was really enjoyable. And the music, I thought the soundtrack was fantastic. I loved the Eminem Venom rap that they play at the end of the film. If you haven't heard that yet, definitely go give that a listen. It's really, really a cool song. Paired with the Venom Rorschach animations at the end. Very cool. Make sure you watch that. It's really interesting to see. The opening panoramic shot of San Francisco opens with a rap song that is so auto-tuned that it made me wince. I know sometimes that's done to make a statement about auto-tuning, but it killed my ears. I couldn't appreciate it, sorry. That was like my one quibble with the music. Overall, I thought that this film was great. The story drew me in. The pacing was a little funky. The characters are engaging. I felt the interaction between Venom and Eddie was very intriguing. Although the end, I couldn't quite buy. They didn't quite sell me on Venom's decision at the end of the film, and I'll talk about that in the spoilers. But overall, I thought the story was great. The movie was engaging. It was fun to watch. It hit all the right notes of being a dark villain film without going over the top about it. I really enjoyed it. So this was probably the biggest surprise of the year for me. My final movie rating for this is an 89%. I am as stunned as you are by that. Now it is time for the spoilers section. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you best scooch along to avoid the spoilers. So the full plot for this, of course, is after Eddie is taken over by Venom as the symbiote, he finds out that the symbiotes were deliberately found by humans in order to get to the planet and basically feed on us. That's kind of trippy to me, especially since I love the Three Body Problem trilogy by Cixin. I probably just butchered that name as well. Sorry about that. I really am intrigued by the Fermi paradox, so seeing like an alien life form deliberately in this movie come to Earth to feed on people because we were dumb enough to reach out into space was a little trippy for me, and I was like, but it was a very, very interesting way to tie in and show how Venom arrived. So as Eddie and Venom kind of get to know each other, Eddie of course discovers all the powers that Venom has. Venom reveals what the motives are for getting there, and he finds out that Carlton Drake has also been possessed by Riot, of course. Riot is going to bring all of the symbiotes to Earth to feed as they will and essentially destroy mankind as we know it. A lot of people could argue that this is a very cliche plot, but I think it is directly in line with the nature of the symbiotes, the nature of Venom. This is a very plausible and believable hostile alien takeover story. Eddie's ex-fiance figures out that sound damages Venom and the symbiotes, so of course she uses that to separate Venom from Eddie so that Eddie has a chance to recover because Venom has been feeding on his internal organs. Unfortunately, as Eddie leaves free of Venom, he is captured by the mercenaries employed by Carlton Drake because Drake still thinks that he has Venom inside of him. And so his fiance becomes She-Venom because she gets taken over by Venom. Now this of course leads to the cringiest moment in the film where in order to transfer Venom from her to him, they have a creepy makeout session in the forest just before Eddie is terminated. I think that they probably meant that to be sexy. However, the lack of chemistry between Hardy and Michelle Williams just made it weird. They didn't give you a lot of background as to, did she take Venom into her? Like, what caused her change of heart? Did Venom just take her over and she changed her mind on the way there? You see her just decide to randomly come with him after this strange kiss that transfers the symbiote. It's a little cringy because it's hard to believe based on how they did it. I know that there's a lot of deleted footage that they did not release in the theater version. I'm hoping that they release an extended version of this film and we get more background, especially because Hardy mentioned that some of his favorite parts were not in the released version. I would be very interested to see the extended version. Of course, they find out that Riot is going to be bringing back all the symbiotes to take over the Earth, so Eddie and Venom decide to take him out. Now, this is the part of the story where I have the most problems, because Venom's change of heart to save Earth after going most of the movie, taking over Eddie's body, being very violent, not understanding why he can't just eat people and eat other things, seems very rapid to me. And the motivation wasn't entirely clear, and I wasn't able to buy why there was a change of heart. I don't think that they explained it well enough. What I would assume is that because Venom says,
I'm kind of a loser, like you,
that he kind of wants Earth to be his own stomping grounds, especially since he found such a great host in Eddie. And they talk about how Eddie is a very strong host a couple times, which is very interesting because they really use that to highlight the strength of the bond between them. I understand Venom has like a psychotic love for Eddie, and maybe he just wants to be with Eddie and have the world be his own place so he's not a loser like he is on his own planet among his own people. But that's not really explained, so this is all just speculation at this point. However, there are holes in the plot that they solved and prevented from happening, so while I do think that the explanation was missing in that part of the story, and it's at the end, of course, so it's very, very rapid, I feel like they should have drawn it out more and shortened the middle. They did address other areas where there could have been holes in the plot. And I think like the best example of that is when the doctor smuggles him in and they find out, they're like, who could have let the intruder in? And normally in reality, you're like, just check the freaking video footage. There's security cameras everywhere, right? Just check. Sure enough, they immediately check the footage and find out it's her. So you know immediately, of course, that is a plot hole that gets addressed right away. And they did a good job of taking care of those moments. There were some things that didn't make sense to me. Why were the drones just self-destructing at him the whole time if they were trying to get him back alive? They are also very nonchalant about drawing attention to themselves, considering that in other parts of the film, they had helicopters flying in under secrecy of night. They were trying to keep people from being alerted to their presence. They were just very open about it. And the only thing I can think of to explain that is that Drake was just so desperate at this point. He was so close to his breakthrough that he just said screw it to all privacy and just went after it. And the last thing I really want to talk about is that end credit scene. I thought initially I heard there was a sequel nod at the end of the film. And at first I was like, my God, everything has to have a sequel, and now this terrible movie is going to have a terrible sequel. But I was wrong about the movie being terrible, and I'm actually kind of excited about a sequel now. And the sequel involves Carnage. It's going to be very interesting to see how they tie in Carnage. The problem is with Carnage himself. It's Woody Harrelson, and I love Woody Harrelson, but he looks like a demented Ronald McDonald clown in this, and I'm just like, really? And that's the wig you went with? He looks like an insane McDonald's mascot, and I laughed when they revealed him, and you weren't supposed to laugh, and the people who were with me in the theater also were like, what? What was really fun about this movie actually was seeing it with a lot of fans. Normally, if I go see a movie kind of early, there aren't a lot of people there. This one was pretty packed out, and I wasn't even at the 3D showing, so I was very surprised that there were as many people there as there were, and you could tell that there were some people who were dedicated fans. They were excited to be there. And at the end of the film, people applauded, and I know that often people think applauding at the end of a movie is dumb. I think that it's a good gauge of how the movie is received, though. So for a bunch of true fans that were there to see the film early to applaud and get excited about most of the movie because it was happening kind of throughout the film, I thought that was a really good tell that even though this film may not be well received by critics, by the fans and by myself too. We felt it was very good. So was the movie perfect? No. There's no perfect movie. Was it way better than I expected? Hell yeah! I can personally fully recommend seeing Venom, especially if you're gonna go see it in theaters. I would check it out. You've got a long weekend to do it. And I think I saw on Amazon that if you have Prime, you can get like $5 off or something. I used my Cinemia pass, so I didn't do this, but if you do have Amazon Prime and you want to see the movie, check out the Amazon deal on it because $5 off movie tickets is not bad. Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to Game Diaz for sending me this amazing RGB LED mouse. So cool. This is their Zeus P1 gaming mouse. And they sent me an extended gaming mouse pad. This thing is so awesome. I have always wanted an extended mouse pad. I've never gotten one. It's this really interesting texture. I wasn't sure I was gonna like the texture at first, but I do actually really like it, and it helps keep the mouse super, super on point. Huge props to Game Diaz. No, I was not sponsored or paid to say this. They sent me these. I thought they were awesome, and I recommend them. If you're interested, guys, links to them on Amazon are down below in the description, and there's also a link to their products on Best Buy's site. I'm really, really enjoying these. Super cool. I love having this extended gaming mat. I've always wanted one and I've never bought one, but it's really, really neat. I like it a lot. And I understand why people get these now, because I love using this. So, have you guys seen Venom? What did you think? Because this is a very, very polarizing film. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Before I sign off, I just want to say, you guys, if you've made it this far in the video, you guys were so nice. In my last video where I talked about why I enjoy being a small creator so much, I really appreciate how kind you all are. It was really touching. It's nice to do this and know that I am having fun, and hopefully you guys are having fun too. So thank you again so much. You're all awesome. I hope you're having an amazing weekend, and I will catch you later.